Today, there are significant updates from the Kursk direction. 100 meters above a white Lada saloon, the drone locks onto its target. Red lights blink to blue, AI takes over, and the drone swoops in for its kill. The Lada is spared at the last moment, with the drone just 2 meters away. The mission is a test conducted in a field outside Kyiv to fine-tune the system, but the technology is already being deployed by dozens of Ukrainian units on the front line. It's the best feeling to see your drone enter a tiny opening in an enemy trench, says Dennis, an engineer at the Fourth Law, the Ukrainian firm which makes these autonomous drones. This war has broken many myths about 21st century warfare, like the misplaced belief that trench warfare and heavy artillery are things of the past. Infantry will play no role in modern war, MIRV ballistic missiles are only for deterrence, and wars, stretching years and fought along hundreds of miles-long front lines, are unthinkable. This war has pushed into oblivion weapon systems believed to be crucial for a swift victory and heralded the arrival of the new low-cost technologies that will dominate warfare in this century. The Russia-Ukraine war, variously described as a war of attrition and a meat grinder, is also unique in many ways, qualitatively different from the wars we have gotten used to in the 21st century. From the Kursk direction, the engagement captured on video by the 36th Marine Brigade demonstrates Ukraine's effective use of coordinated defense against Russia's increasingly desperate meat wave tactics. Faced with devastating losses of armored vehicles, Russian forces resorted to mass infantry assaults, relying on sheer numbers to breach Ukrainian defenses. This shift in tactics led to a dramatic confrontation where 2 Ukrainian soldiers on a small strongpoint held their ground against an overwhelming force of 20 Russian troops in a fierce battle. The main Russian offensive near Tolsty Lug follows the local highway, aiming to bridge Ukrainian defenses in 2 directions: east toward Avdiivka and south toward Nizhny Klin. This tactical shift comes after repeated failures to cross the Snagast River, where challenging terrain and fortified Ukrainian fire positions on the eastern bank have thwarted their advances. Now, the Russian strategy focuses on bypassing the river from the north with concentrated frontal assaults designed to divide Ukrainian forces in the Kursk Oblast. The Ukrainians have established formidable, multi-layer defensive positions in the oblast, utilizing extensively mined fields and repurposing abandoned Russian fortifications once used to secure the international border. In combination with the Snagast River to the south and Novoivanovka to the north, this creates a narrow corridor with limited space for the Russians to maneuver under strict Ukrainian fire control. After suffering the destruction of multiple waves of armored vehicles and exhausting their reserves, the Russians were left with no choice but to revert to their notorious meat wave tactic, sending hundreds of soldiers to storm Ukrainian lines on foot. The Institute for the Study of War, ISW, citing Ukrainian officers in the Kursk direction, reported that Russian forces have largely abandoned the use of heavy equipment after suffering devastating losses from Ukrainian strikes. Instead, they now rely on infantry assaults, typically in small teams of 3 to 5 soldiers. Frontline troops have corroborated this, describing the battles as highly active and intense, dominated by infantry engagements. Dramatic footage from the Tolsty Lug area further illustrates the ferocity of these clashes. Drone operators of the 36th Marine Brigade of Ukraine released a geolocated video showcasing the heroism of their soldiers responsible for the defense of this sector and the high level of coordination between units on the ground and in the skies above. The footage reveals a group of nearly 10 Russian stormtroopers infiltrating a Ukrainian trench, while another similarly sized unit advances openly across the fields. Both groups were spotted simultaneously by a reconnaissance drone and 2 vigilant Ukrainian Marines. Acting with remarkable speed and precision, The Marines quickly took their firing positions, unleashing a fierce counterattack with small arms fire and grenades, effectively halting the enemy assault, while the Russians under heavy fire were forced to take cover in nearby bushes and return fire from their positions. Recognizing the dire situation faced by their two outnumbered comrades, Ukrainian drone operators acted swiftly, calling in artillery support. The first shell landed near the Russian positions, wounding several and forcing them to retreat. Moments later, additional shells struck the trench where the initial Russian group had gathered, inflicting devastating casualties. The footage concludes with images of Russian stormtroopers lying dead in the fields and trenches, stark evidence of another failed assault. Overall, the shift from mechanized assaults to mass infantry attacks highlights not only the depletion of Russian armored capabilities, but also reflects a broader failure to adapt effectively to Ukraine's layered defenses and precision strikes. The featured battle, epitomized by the heroic stand of two Ukrainian soldiers against overwhelming odds, demonstrates Ukraine's ability to leverage tactical setting and coordination to neutralize numerically superior forces. These developments suggest a growing disparity in the strategic calculus, where Russian forces are increasingly sacrificing manpower without meaningful gains, further weakening their capacity to sustain prolonged offensives. While modern warfare has changed dramatically and both sides have introduced newer technology in the current conflict, from the latest air defense systems to first-person view FPV drones, there is still no alternative to heavy artillery in long grinding wars. To underscore this point, until November 2024, Ukraine has received nearly 1 million artillery shells from the EU, over 3 million artillery shells from the United States, over 500,000 from the Czech Republic, and over 1 million from other individual European states, while Ukraine produces millions of shells annually. On the other hand, according to NATO intelligence estimates of Russian defense production, Moscow was producing over 250,000 monthly artillery munitions by March.
Армата! Пострел! Пострел!